Oh my God.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Hola, you blessed beasts of burden, and welcome back to This Works For Now, a podcast for you to share your stories, your music, and your art. But not this week, because, and I hate to have to do this to you so soon, but I will be reading a story crafted by my own dirty little hands today, my depraved little mitts. Because the internet doesn't know I exist yet, so I haven't gotten any story submissions. It's also been literally 1 day since I put out the other podcast as I'm recording this, and that's why you, my loyal listeners, should share this podcast, like this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, tell your friends, your family, your mothers, your brothers, your aunts, your uncles, yes, even your creepy Uncle Rickolas. I need him to pull in the 8 to 12-year-old demographic, and he can be very persuasive. And please, if you like to write, don't be shy, okay? Send your stories into the email in the description. I want your brain juices, okay, people? If you know someone who likes to write, pull them out of their dank little body odor tear-soaked cave, give them a firm couple slaps to the face and buttocks, and scream, "Hey! This works for now!" And do it loud enough that the neighbors can hear so it'll improve my channel analytics. In conclusion, okay, send me your stories, send me your art, send me your music, put the money in the bag, and no one gets hurt. Patreon.com/thisworksfornow. And without further juggalo, let's hear this week's story. So this story comes to us from me, Evan G., all the way down in Austin, Texas, and it is called The Molemen. We enter near the center of a vast American desert in a place once called New Mexico. The air was cold and dry, and under the starlit sky, the last human died many years ago. Suddenly, there was a hole, and from it emerged a mole, then another, and hundreds more. These were the Molemen. The creatures emerged slow and blind into the night, their vision long since lost from eons of subterranean evolution. They journeyed out of the earth, God only knows why, into the night. The first 1,000 generations or so were tough, crawling over the desert floor, feeling desperately around for bugs and grubs and water. They were easy prey, truly out of their element, but they stayed there, above the ground. God only knows why. Eventually, the moles learned that if they stayed side by side, crawling across the desert floor, they could more easily find food and water as a group and warn the other moles of predators. Many generations passed, and slowly their sight began to return. The babies born with vision being much more likely to survive their blind brothers, the trait traveled quickly. It wasn't long, evolutionarily speaking, until most every mole born into this world could see its mother's star-nosed face, and the sky, and the ground, and the grubs. A stranger trick of evolution is that the moles began to walk upright on their hind feet. At first they did so only as a threat, a show of dominance to other moles, and only for a brief few moments. But, eventually, new bones grew and new tendons tensed their strength, and it wasn't long until all the moles stood straight up. No one knows quite why this occurred. Some say the moles who could stand the longest showed the most dominance and therefore had the most reproductive success. Some say they just wanted to be closer to the stars. They didn't have much in the way of legs, just feet, really. So they kind of waddled around like penguins. They waddled far and wide, eventually inhabiting almost every corner of the globe. There weren't always as many bugs and grubs to go around where they ventured, but they made do with what they could find. They were survivors, always adapting to the new environment. They even took down much larger beasts by working together and fashioning tools, traps, and weapons. Separately, and unrelated, but all around the same time, many moles in many different lands discovered fire. They would cook the large beasts and celebrate all night long after a big hunt. They would play and dance and sing their mole songs. They would cover their tiny little mole hands in the beast's blood and imprint them upon the walls of cliffs and caves, just to let other moles know that they were there, just to be reaffirmed in a way of their own existence, to mark their own distinct individual mole presence in this world. At this point, the moles were so separated, they began to become different from the moles in other faraway regions. Whenever tribes of moles would encounter other tribes of moles, they would try to kill them for being different, for being a threat to their holy moly way of life. The moles invented war, and they waged it with rocks and sticks and spears. Soon, in the wet, more arable regions of the globe, some moles discovered agriculture and developed the first mole societies. Some moles controlled the land that grew the food and ruled over all the other moles, forced to work their land for free or starve. The intelligent among them invented boats and wheels and began to explore the globe they did not know they had truly already conquered many generations ago. These villages turned to cities, turned to empires, as the strong moles pillaged and ruled over the weak. Eventually, the moles in power became weak themselves, deluded by a lack of perspective, and were overthrown in countless mole uprisings. Many holy moly religions developed to cope with the sheer lack of answers to basic questions the moles all held deep inside. Why are we here? Where did we come from? What is the point of this whole thing? Some religious leaders promised a land of endless bugs and grubs after death, ruled by a great white mole in the sky. Others taught of reincarnation, that a mole could only break its cycle of death and rebirth once he had discovered some irrefutable truth and becomes enlightened. Others still believed in several hundreds of mole gods and mole goddesses, each with their own powers over different aspects of their mole world. Millions of moles lived and died, all with their own beliefs and stories and culture, never to be exactly recreated again. Their societies grew and fell. They warred with each other, made peace with each other, were overthrown, rebuilt, and warred with each other again, this time with different names and different moles. They developed new languages, new inventions, new ways of life, each mole instinctively trying to be better than the last, whatever that meant. Eventually, the moles explored the whole world, the strong mole nations conquering the weak, the aggressive destroying the passive, the conquerors conquering the conquered until the conquered revolt, only to become conquerors themselves. Mole capitalism developed, some moles owning the means of production, the means of sustaining and improving the lives of the others, and ruled over the moles that owned nothing, forced to work and produce the very things they needed for wages that did not afford them the ability to buy the very things they produced. The system was tweaked and prodded, and in some places even removed altogether, but nothing changed too much. The strong and wealthy moles still ruling over the weak and the poor. They built new buildings, new factories, new homes. They invented trains and cars and planes. The moles rushed and waddled and worked their whole lives to die no closer to knowing who they were, where they came from, and what this thing all meant. They invented guns and bombs and waged greater war than ever, until eventually they developed weapons so destructive that they could end the whole mole world in an instant. They could no longer fight the big tribes in the open, or risk destroying their own tribes as well. So they fought smaller tribes in smaller places, while they stole everything necessary to make their tribe the best in the world. They invented mole phones and mole computers, and could talk to moles on the other side of the planet in the blink of an eye. They invented social moledia, and paraded their lives for other moles to see, and hopefully feel less dominant in comparison. They invented new virtual ways to stand on their hind legs yet again. They invented plastics and Teflon and chemicals to destroy weeds that got into the air and the water and the earth. This caused the moles to get cancer and birth defects, and their endless construction caused the climate to change around the planet. The moles weren't too concerned about this, though. After all, it mostly affected their children, or their children's children, not them, and they had mole money to make and other moles to fuck, and a hole to fill inside of them the size of the one their species crawled out of so many eons ago. So they kept building, and they kept ruling, and they kept making money and technology and art. They would build families, build careers, make millions, gamble it all away, make it back again. Insurance moles would fuck over customer moles who had medical bills to pay or crash their cars because they could. Unstable moles would become serial killers and end the lives of many because they could. Kind moles would try to end world hunger and help the homeless because they could. And this continued and continued until the world was so full of moles, each trying to be better than the last at any cost, that it simply could not sustain the weight. The chemicals the moles released caused them all to get sick, all the fresh water ran dry, and the earth became too hot for the moles to survive. In the end, the moles could not pass through the great filter, could not stop their relentless search for progress, even in the face of total annihilation. They could not remember how to dig back underground. They died of their own desire, and became just another layer of sedimentary history, above the layer of intelligent cheetahs, the layer of sentient ants, the layer of opposable-thumbed rhinos, and the layer of mostly hairless apes before them. Wow. What an important and provocative piece of modern literature from hands down the most sexually attractive writer of our time, or any, really. Now, if you need a moment to cry, to just let it all out, you know, because you've been so profoundly moved by this piece of scripture, that's okay. You know, that's understandable. You know, just go ahead, pause the podcast, go take a moment, make a cup of herbal tea. You know, in fact, I'm just gonna give everyone like a designated little cry time window here. Okay, so it's cry time now. Okay, just let it out. Okay, pussies, cry time is over. Now it's time for me to cry because I don't have any story submissions. Listen, if you have a story you want to have read on the podcast, and I know you do, Derek, you Slovakian f***, I am looking at you, Derek. If you have a story you want read here on the podcast, please DM me over Instagram at thisworksfornowpodcast, or send it into the email at thisworksfornowpodcast@gmail.com. Okay, I'm dying here. I'm shriveling up. I'm shriveling up. By the way, for the time being, the podcast is just on YouTube. Don't worry, eventually it will be on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Plus, whatever the fuck, everything, every little thing, and you can get the uncensored version of the podcast there. But YouTube has these delicate sensibilities, so I can't offend the demonetization gods with my F words and my S words and my B words. I could never say bionicle on here. If you want to support me so hard that I swear openly anyway, head on down to patreon.com/thisworksfornow. Okay, I've got these 3 tiers. I think you'll find them all very reasonable and rewarding to your sex drive, your longevity in the bedroom. Can I even say sex on YouTube? Is that allowed? Listen, the point is, donating to the Patreon will raise your testosterone, okay? Even if you're a woman. So, like, still donate, but be careful. If you donate to any tier, I will display your name at the end of the podcast, like around this point. You know, just imagine your name is on the screen. For the audio version, when that happens, if you donate to the middle tier, I will physically use my mouth to speak your name on the podcast. I will use my vocal cords, I will undulate them, and you will hear your name with your ears. It'll be unreal. And if you are JP Morgan, Emperor Moneybags, Scrooge McFuck himself, and you donate to the top tier, which is super unrealistically priced, trust me, it's bonkers. I will read a custom message from you on the podcast. Just whatever you want me to say, I will say it. Please don't make me sound like a Nazi, okay? I have a career to uphold, but hey, you know, at these prices, I'd much prefer, you know, just like a wholesome shout out to your hometown sweetie, as opposed to anti-Semitism. A good old, hey mom, I'm on the This Works For Now podcast, Hey, Mom. I'm Pete Davidson over here. I'm Pete Davidson. I am still holding the logo contest on the Instagram. Send me your logo and I will post it on the Instagram, okay? You will get clout. And then the winner's logo will get to be the face of the YouTube channel, the Instagram, the Patreon, all that good stuff. So please format your logo like it's a profile picture, okay? It's like a circle. You guys have all seen a circle before, I'm sure of it. Maybe at your AA meetings, I don't know. Lastly, bang my line over the Instagram, okay? I am always looking to connect and collab, especially if you live in the Austin, Texas area. That is where I'm based. I just moved here, and frankly, I am going mentally insane. Okay, so with all that being said, I'll see you hopefully before next week. If you pussy boys actually pony up and send me some stories. You pussy boys and girls, sorry. And pussy non-binary individuals, all that out of the way. Here's my boy Koi and Yago with the Yayo on 69.9 TWFN The Sludge. Links in the description below.
Call it Sonya, pair with a baddie, like at the caddy, she calling me daddy, posting the valley, rolling with classy hoes, I'm taking your Grammy, I want it so badly,
Call from my boy and he wanted a verse. Shoot for your head, you gon' leave in a hearse. Bitches on bitches, I'm making it work. Stitches get stitches, just straight to the dirt. Throw from my gun and my eyes start to burn. Surrounded by dumb bitches I never learned. Bringing the stick and I'm bringing the hurt. Popping these pills and I'm rolling on perks. Bringing in racks, bringing in stacks. Throw shade at the game and I'm bringing the Mac. Designer trunk cause I'm swimming in cat. Bulletproof caddy with bulletproof glass. Stay by my side, you get paid in advance. Your bitch in my car, she my #1 fan. You can run from this stick but you don't got a chance. You call you her man, why my dick in her hand.
pair with a baddie, like at the caddy, she calling me daddy, posting the valley, rolling with classy hoes, I'm taking your Grammy, I want it so badly,
He want it so badly. Producer on deck and he's giving me Grammys. She calling me daddy. She dropping the pin and she dropping the addy. We posting the valley. I'm the biggest in town, you can call me the fatty. Bulletproof caddy. Seeing what happens when you try to blast me. Running it up. Bottles on bottles, I'm filling my cup. Swimming in models, they backing it up. She starts to waddle, I dug out her guts. Smashing the throttle, you gotta speed up. Drip on the nozzle, I'm busting it up. She likes to gobble, she likes to wobble. Bust on her face, and she cleaning it up.
I call it Sonya, pair with a baddie, like at the caddy, she calling me daddy, posting the valley, rolling with classy hoes, I'm taking your Grammy, I want it so badly,
Okay. I've had like a little bit of a UTI moment the past couple days, but I was like, whatever, it'll go away, whatever. And this morning I wake up and I go pee-pee and there's blood. And I'm like, that's not great. But whatever, I'll just drink a bunch of water and flush it out and it's fine, whatever. I don't want to deal with this. And then I go pee-pee again and then there's a lot of blood. And then I'm like, actually, maybe I should go to the urgent care. So I go out and I do that. And then that's fun, obviously. And then where am I walking? I guess 14th is not a through street. So they prescribe me whatever. I have to go to the pharmacy to get it. I'm like, send it to Safeway on 19th because I gotta walk there. They're like, okay. And so I go and I walk there. It's also 90 degrees out and I'm wearing pants. And I walk to Safeway and I'm like, I'm picking this shit up. And they're like, no, you not. This shit is at Albertsons on 18th. I'm like, fuck. but I want to get my meds today. And so I wait for the bus for 20 minutes. It's 90 degrees out. While I'm sitting there waiting for the bus, this person comes up to me, and I couldn't tell if he was like 16 or 25, but he started talking to me, and I was like, well, isn't that just the way it goes? And he keeps talking to me, and I had to touch his hand. He shook my hand. I had no choice. And we got on the same bus, and he sat near me and talked to me. And he was like, so, how would you feel about trading contact information? And I was like, I was like, do you have Instagram? Because obviously I wasn't going to give him my number. And he was like, no. I was like, Snapchat? And he was like, yes, but I don't have internet on my phone. I was like, okay, I'll write it on a piece of paper for you. And I did that. I wrote it on a piece of paper from the urgent care about how I had a UTI. And then finally, I got off the bus, and I went to Albertsons, and I got there, and I had to catch, the bus back and the other way, so I had to be quick. But I got there, and the pharmacy was fucking closed for lunch! And it was like 1:40, and the pharmacy didn't open till 2, and then I had to leave at like 2:04 to be able to catch the bus the way back, so I'm like, fuck. And then I bought some pasta to kill time, as one does. And then finally the pharmacy opens. I'm like, oh my god, give it to me, give me the fucking, I have a UTI, give it to me now. And they're like, okay, here you go. And I got out of there right at 2:04 or whatever, and I'm going to the bus, and it's just 90 degrees out, and my bag is full of pasta. And then I'm like, oh shit. The bus stop is like right in front of where this dude that was talking to me works. He works at like in the little hut at the gas station. He fills cars. And then I see him, and he comes out, and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey. And he's like, do you want a cold soda? And I'm like, actually, you know what? I do want that. Is this recording? Yes. Which is why I was burping earlier, because I've been drinking a soda. I don't even remember what his name was. It was something stupid like Johnson or something. My phone's been about to die this whole time, also. So yeah, that's my day. I'm walking home now. Alright. Yes, of course, I would love that. You don't even have to alter my voice. You just throw it in there.
They invented social media. Stupid. They invented social media. They invented social media and they invented social media and hello.